Something's happening through our species. We've lived so long in the mind, in the head, just like that, disconnected from anything else. And we've come to realise over the last 30 years or so that there's way more to life than what we thought. Do you know, in 1991, some very special cells were found in the human heart. There are 40,000 of them, and they're called sensory neurites. They're thinking cells in the heart. I know there's neurons all over the body, but these ones are just a little bit different, more akin to the ones in the brain. And there is anecdotal evidence that the heart retains memory. I won't go into that now. Also, we know, because of the institutes like HeartMath, that there's a magnetic field created by the heart and one by the brain. But the one by the heart is stronger and has been measured up to 3 feet away from the human body. So it's stronger than the one of the mind, the brain. Also in HeartMath, they found that if you join the two fields and go into coherence, all sorts of magical things happen. Health, homeostasis, balanced nervous system, clear thinking. You know, basically you've got access to a sovereign state when you have coherence. And within that sovereign state is a part of you that, unless you've done this work, unless you've realised and implemented everything that it means, you've been living beside yourself, only in your mind. In your mind, that's where there's stress. That's where there's overthinking. That's where there's suffering of all degrees. And when you're in coherence, that disappears. I'm not saying there's no pain. You know, pain happens, things happen, but the suffering aspect of it doesn't have to happen. And it doesn't when you're in coherence. When you've located your sovereign present self, suffering isn't a choice you make. You realise that it is a choice at that point. Obviously, when you're stuck in the mind, and suffering's all that's been given, so you're desperately sick and your body's in pain and, you know, you're overtaken and overwhelmed by the experience, then you think that that's all that there is, but that's not true. Although maybe finding it from there is a challenge, more often than not, that's what we've got to do. Life pushes us into circumstances where really the only choice is to surrender up the mind because it's just too much. And that'll be your saving grace. It was mine. And then you find how much more you are. And that actually, this presence that you've got within you offers wisdom, offers direction, offers solution, offers all of those things that the mind efforts so long and hard to find. And then you find in presence, in your present state, these things are gifted. They just arise easily, effortlessly. You find then you walk through your life and there's synchronicities. Oh, I could really do with one of those. Oh well. And you move on. And then one of those appears in your life effortlessly. Somebody turns up with it, or you find it, or something. That answers to your questions, solutions to your problems. It's all there. Abundance. It's all there. Everything that you need is there. But to be recognised by you, or should I say realised? Because this whole trip is a trip of self-realisation. Have you realised that yet? That there's actually more to this than you think. There really is, you know? And only by experiencing it will you know what I mean. What I'm doing in this world right now is sharing a technology that helps us reach that state so that we can all live from there. That's a magical thing. That's the thing that's going to heal everything. You, me, everything else, all the problems and wars and everything else. I listened to somebody the other day on a podcast, and he said, he said something, he's gone shit or bust, I don't care what happens now, because he's having a heart operation later on in the month, and he's like, I might not make it, so I don't want anything but this to be my last words, just in case. So he said, when he looks at the leaders of the world, he sees people of low consciousness. And by that he means that they're up in their heads. They're up in their heads. That's a low form of consciousness, because you haven't realised how connected to everything you really are, and how much wisdom and peace and forward moving and solution solving and all of that, problem solving even, all of that exists for you. Health exists for you. They don't realise that. They're operating from mind, and yet those are the ones at the top. I think I remember a sports teacher saying to me, any team can only go as fast as its slowest member. So I suppose it figures that we've got those at the top, those people. But I think it's time to change. I think it's time for all of us to do a little bit of work inside. A little bit of work where we give up all of that rubbish that we've been operating with and on for so long. Find something that helps you. Meditate, walk, sports, zindagi, some frequency work, something to introduce you to yourself. You're good to know. You should have a look.